My name's Pete. I run a small applied artificial intelligence business called Us. We have a very simple philosophy. We're trying to make technology go away, which is kind of the design thinking behind the business. And also, we have a kind of philosophy that we could probably design better conversations if we really look at the data that we generate. We have a conscious capitalism model for the business. So we do work with the third sector, we do work with the industry, the big industry, and then we try and kind of flip the human problems that the third sector have over to the big industry to pay for, and then bring the big tech back to the third sector. And it's working quite nicely. We've got some really wonderful clients who are on this journey with us, and they're helping us to do some really quite remarkable work with charities like Calm, the men's mental health suicide prevention charity. We're doing a lot of AI work with them, and a lot of it is based on the technology that we were developing for companies down in the city. So the reason I love this slide is because I'm really proud of our clients, but I'm also really proud that they've come on this journey with us to try and disrupt a business model slightly. We kind of find ourselves in the natural language understanding part of AI, whatever AI means. It means so many different things to so many different people, but there's a lot of work going on in chatbots and voice and all that kind of stuff. That's interface work. We're trying to do much more work that helps us to understand what people are saying and why they're saying it and what we can do in that space. We have a set of principles that we use for the business. We have 5 principles. They're our kind of design ethics framework that we really drive towards, and we say no to quite a lot of work at the moment if they don't fit within one of these things. So we don't do sales work, which upsets some of our clients. Not selling credit cards or anything that is kind of not necessary for amplifying the very best parts of humanity. It gives us a moral compass. It helps us go in the right direction, and it helps set the tone, I think, for what we're trying to do as a business. And when I set the business up a couple of years ago with my co-founder, Matt, we just dived straight into some of the philosophies that I'd kind of collaborated with a lot of people in the design community on for years and years and years and years. The biggest one is that, we're not digitizing behavior anymore. We're behaving in a digital world. And we have to kind of embrace that now. So, we're not users, we're people. We're people, we're immersed in technology. Technology has a very weird effect on some people. It has a very good effect on some people. But it is kind of augmenting us. It's changing us. And what we realized is that, if I look at the career that I've been on, from 1996 all the way through to today, we've gone through a series of evolutions and revolutions. And it's got us to the position that we're in right now. And the reason we're looking at AI as a type of technology that we're trying to design with is it's a natural kind of corollary. It's the way that we've been going. And it's been driven by some really odd behavior. So this is the Pope's inauguration in 2005 and 2013. And we heard a brilliant talk just before lunch about kind of mobile and mobile adoption and mobile evolution. Mobiles are evolving us as much as the technology is evolving. And I love this picture. For me, it just kind of sums it all up beautifully, which is this kind of blue uplit glow on people's faces. And it's kind of terrifying and it's kind of beautiful in equal measures. But what's happened is that behavior has started to enable us to do things that 20 years ago, when I started out, we could only really dream about. We didn't have the fuel in the tank. We didn't have enough technology in the communities and in societies to generate that fuel that we could then start to do kind of really interesting data-driven work with. So that's kind of why I think the Pope's inauguration is why we're in a space of AI right now. AI is not new. It's been around for a long, long time. Actually, the concept of neural networks was conceived in the 40s. So in the 40s, Warren McCulloch wrote a paper about neural networks. You can still get it on the internet today. It's worth having a read if you can decipher it. It was a theory that actually we could probably make machines more organic by design, and it was theoretical at the time. Then in the 50s, John McCarthy and a team at MIT, team of guys, a bunch of guys, which is a problem, but we won't go into ethics of that today, conceived the term AI. So the term AI was created in the 50s. It lays out in the paper from MIT 7 principles of what would make a machine intelligent. And if you look at those 7 principles, I won't go through them today. We're not here to do history. We're here to do something else. Actually, we're probably doing 3 or 4 of those at the moment. So when we talk about artificial intelligence as a term, it's nonsense, most of it, because we're not doing what was the conception of AI in the 50s. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's happened along the way. Backpropagation was a really interesting invention. It's the machine learning algorithm It was actually designed to help traveling salesmen find a quicker route around a town. So how to speed up letter drops and things like that. We did chatbots in the 60s. So again, suddenly popped up now, like everyone's doing it, and it's brilliant, it's really, really good, and we do a lot of work in that space as well, but it's not a new concept. It's an old concept that suddenly we're able to do really interesting things because of the fuel that we're generating. The self-driving car was an 80s, they did it in the 80s, Mercedes-Benz did it in the 80s, and it had the same problem in the 80s as it has now, which is it kept knocking people over and killing chickens. And so, we're trying to solve the same problems that we've been trying to solve for a long, long time. Kasparov gets beaten by the chess master in the 90s, just as I was starting my career, and that really ignited my interest in AI as a topic in the 90s, just as I was starting out. AI wins Jeopardy was a big stunt IBM pulled 10 years ago, whatever it was, and it's a really wonderful concept, the Jeopardy win. But if I had Wikipedia for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I could probably win. So again, I argue the kind of the intelligence of winning Jeopardy. Things really got interesting kind of in 2006 when the AlphaGo machine beat Lee Sedol at the game of Go. Has anyone seen the documentary AlphaGo? There's a few people. That's my first live tip. Go watch this documentary on Netflix called AlphaGo. It's stunning. Something happened in the third game, move 37. The machine basically played a move in the most complicated game on the planet that irritated Lee Sedol, the master, so much he basically went outside, and there's some shots of him kind of having a pensive moment on his own, chain smoking on the roof, and then he comes back in and they said to him, why did you walk out? He said the machine cheated, which is like, ooh, and then they looked at the data and they realized that it hadn't cheated, it had just invented a whole move that nobody had ever seen before in 1,000 years of the game ago, or whatever it is. So it was quite remarkable. It was a watershed moment. I worry, though, that when we think about AI, the media has clouded some of it slightly. We probably think of this. We probably think of the plastic robot doing equations, or the plastic robot wearing AR glasses. Why would... let's just think about this one for a moment. If you're a robot, you probably don't need to wear a visor or a VR helmet. I was always imagining that VR would kind of just come naturally to a robot, or the pensive robot. I like that one. You probably think that it's going to steal your jobs because reporters put pictures like this on. My last favourite, the hoodie. My second life hack tip for you today, before I go into the reason I'm here to talk to you, is the minute you see an article released on the interweb with one of these pictures on about AI, dismiss it. It's fake news. It's not real. And that's a good tip. If a journo has put one of these pictures on, just ignore it. It's not real. It's actually very boring, AI, when you get down to the rub of it. This one irritates me slightly as well. And you go like, oh, it's all doom and gloom, isn't it? Good old Stephen and Elon. And you go like, shut up, Elon. Elon Musk has a motive for upsetting people on the topic of AI, which he's trying to sell tickets to Mars. And so he has a bit of a motive to try and freak people out about living on Earth at the moment, which is he wants us to go there. That's AI, and I've got slight OCD, so I can't go into the server room. It upsets me slightly. That's AI. This is a really wonderful one. So the cable tie on this side was designed by a person. It runs across the road in Amsterdam. It's the whole cables together. The one in the middle was basically the first evolution that a machine was able to 3D print by sucking in data from weights and cables and number of cables. On the far side, the tiny little thing is able to hold 3 times as much weight, has been entirely designed by a machine, and is able to kind of 3D print itself. Like, its optimization is the punchline. What algorithms are really, really good for is optimizing problems. And that's why I think actually we should embrace it as a designer's tool as much as kind of revere it. It's not here to take our jobs, it's here to help us do our jobs better if we use it in the correct way. So let's tell my story. It's going to be slightly uncomfortable. I appreciate you've all just had lunch. Anybody that's seen me talk knows that I don't dodge the thorny issues, so we're going to go straight into something I think quite beautiful. It's a really wonderful story about something we've done in the last 18 months. It's about a friend of mine. What is there any one of in the universe? Shout out. Yeah, you're a philosophical bunch. Let's go a bit deeper. Statistically, what are the chances of you existing in this room right now as you? 1 in 102 million. You're miracles. And that's the chances of your parents meeting, them chemically being able to kind of conceive you, and so on and so forth. Like, we are miracles. Machines are not miracles. Machines are something that we have created. We in this room are the miracles. And I want you to hold that in the back of your head when I go through the story today. Because this is about a friend of mine, James, and he was going to be here and present with me. He's not here. There was another presenter that was coming, and I'll tell you why. He's not here later as well. There was going to be 4 of us, but there's only 1 of me. This is my dear friend, James.
So my name's James Dunn, and I'm 23. I suffer from a rare genetic skin condition called recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. Basically, I'm missing the glue in between each layer of skin. Therefore, my skin will just peel off, blister and scar with friction, leaving wounds all over my body.
James is awesome. He's one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever spent like considerable amounts of time with. EB is a pretty horrendous condition, and that's putting it lightly. He was born without the collagen in his skin. The media refer to the condition as butterfly syndrome sometimes. It basically means the skin peels off his body. It's a horrific condition. It's really kind of up there with the most unpleasant. What's really wonderful about my dear friend James is he feels lucky. He feels really lucky. He feels lucky for a number of reasons. We'll find out in a minute why he feels so lucky. He's such a wonderful, wonderful man. And so kind of spending time with him, solving some design challenges have actually been really eye-opening for me. His life is already shaped by technology. And again, a couple of years ago when we started hanging out and kind of throwing around some ideas together, I got a real understanding of technology from a completely different perspective. Because he can't be here today, here's the interview or part of an interview that we gave last year, and I don't know if the sound quality is very good, so just hang in there. How much has technology given you back independence and confidence, actually?
A lot. I could not live without technology. For instance, what I use to get around my wheelchair. If I was born back in the 1900s, I would have been left with a wooden seat and on a wooden wheel type of thing. I would have been buggered. Whereas this wheelchair is my legs and it's how I get around. I drive, so I've got my own car.
I put it up. You have no idea how much I crapped my pants when I got in your car. Let's just be he picks me up from the station in Liverpool, and I get in and I'm like, dude, there's no steering wheel. This is not cool.
Yeah. It's like an episode of Back to the Future.
Questioning my immortality. Every time I get in the car, I question my mortality. I question my mortality many times when I've been with James for many reasons, but basically what we're referring to in the interview there is he picks me up from the station. This was about 2 years ago. He'd been on a TV show called Big Life Fix. I don't know if anybody had seen it. Ruby, who was here last year, I believe, was part of the same show. I knew James before the show, and then he was on that show. There's no steering wheel in his car. Like, you get in and you go like, we're hyping up self-driving cars and so on and so forth. This dude has been driving cars around Liverpool without a steering wheel for, 5 years. He's remarkable. I think he was 22 when we filmed that. In 2016, Jimbo is hanging out at our office. He asked me a very simple question, and I am a sucker when somebody asks me a very simple question of then going, why don't we dedicate some time and resources trying to solve this one? He wanted to know what his legacy would look like in a world where all we talk about is technology and design and so on and so forth. So how could we solve a problem for one? He wanted to know what his legacy could be in a kind of emerging technology landscape. He wants to move beyond his broken body. He wants to share the philosophies that he has for coping and pain relief and happiness and so on and so forth with as many people as possible, but he obviously can't travel. So his whole kind of design brief to us, if you like, was how do I share what's in my head with as many people as possible to the widest possible audience. I think you'll agree that his memories are definitely worth archiving.
Years ago I'd talk about the condition, how bad it was, how painful it was, how depressing it was, and how much it affects my life negatively. now I'm putting a whole different slant on that. I've learned to focus on the positive points of the condition, the happiness I have in life. You know, EV isn't me. You know, it doesn't define who I am. It's a small part of me, and you know that it's 10% of me. The other 90% is a whole lot. It's a whole different aspect. You know, there's a lot more things to me apart from EV, and that's what I like to talk about. I like to talk about how, you know, during my hardest times, through pain, through depression, the one thing that's kept me going is positivity and smiling and laughter. A great family helps always, but if you surround yourself by loving, happy people, and you remember, even if you're having a total rubbish day, that you always smile.
That's worth documenting, right? Actually, me and James first kind of bonded. He made a little tiny reference then to kind of coping and depression and stuff like that. The first time I came to Interact London, I did a talk about designing technology to help people with their mental health and depression. So Interact kind of, in a weird kind of way, brought me and James closer together, or brought us together. He's awesome, absolutely awesome. I wish he was here. We began documenting James's memories. We started putting them into a kind of unstructured corpus of data. Corpus of data from an AI perspective is effectively just, you know, chucking in whatever we can get. We hacked, I've got a story about this video in a minute, by the way. We hacked some voice interfaces, very basic voice interfaces, £30 Google Homes, and put them all over his house. And we did that for two reasons. One, to open up accessibility possibilities for him. He was then suddenly able to switch on his lights using his voice. For independence, he was able to, you know, play music just by asking, and so on and so forth. So these £30 devices that we take for granted suddenly gave him, you know, an extra amount of independence that just wasn't there before, which was remarkable. But we also started using them to document his memories, because I couldn't be in Liverpool with him like all the time. So he started talking to it, which was really interesting. So we started doing things like this.
And I'm 23. I suffer from a rare genetic skin condition called recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. Basically, I'm missing the glue in between each layer of skin. Therefore, my skin will just peel off, blister and scar with friction, leaving wounds all over my body.
So the basic concept is that every day, every 2 days, if he was not feeling very well, we would send down questions, he would use the skill that we created, he would record his answers, and then we were structuring them. We got a lot. We have a lot of James. This is about 1/60th of kind of some of the taxonomy of James's thoughts that we started to collect. The algorithm that we also created kind of automagically sorts and groups them into themes. So we started working out kind of various themes. And again, the kind of punchline for some of this stuff is this is all tech that we've been developing for a corporate client. So, you know, with their permission, we've not given away any IP. We're just reusing some of the stuff that's being developed for other people on, you know, a slightly interesting individual, an interesting use case, an interesting design challenge. And so we started to collect an awful lot about James. We were able in a very crude way, to have conversations with him, via chat. So again, that kind of corpus of information that we started to collect. It's pretty basic, it's not particularly exciting, but it's a good place to start. We're also able to retrieve some of those voice messages that he was leaving the machine using voice.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, please?
So my name's James Dunn, and I'm 23.
So you've heard this sample a few times already. I suffer from a rare
genetic skin condition called recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa. Basically, I'm missing the glue in between each layer of skin. Therefore, my skin will just peel off, blister and scar with friction, leaving wounds all over my body.
So we've heard that sample a few times. What we realised as a byproduct of what we created is that we were changing voice into text, and we had that text corpus, but we'd also been kind of pulling together these voice samples as well. So we've been creating all these voice samples of this remarkable human being, which we're then able to kind of retrieve using the same tagging that we use for chat, which is kind of cool. Now we get a bit crazy. We were going to have Bo with us today, but the British Museum said no on Thursday for health and safety reasons, which is amusing. They would not allow me to bring a fully autonomous robot into their museum in case someone tripped over it, which, if James was presenting with me, he would find hysterical. It's fully autonomous. It's actually designed to get out of people's way. So there you go. We filled out all the paperwork because they were worried it was a bomb. And then when we got through the bomb scenario, they then said last week, if you bring it, please don't switch it on. And we said, well, that's kind of missing the point of such a wonderful machine. Can I switch it on stage? No, in case you fall over it. Which I find hilarious. Thank you, British Museum. Just like very quickly before I move on, I think we've won the argument about whether robots are going to take over the planet. It won't be an ethics thing that stops it happening. It'll be the health and safety police. So there you go. This is the first time James met Bo.
That doing it on its own, or you doing it on your own?
At the moment, I'm controlling it, but usually we allow it to be autonomous in stores and public spaces, so it kind of sits in a confined area, and then you don't want it to go everywhere because you'll just end up finding in the back of the store somewhere. I'm stuck.
Or you have to spot his car.
So Bo was created by a company called Bots and Us. They designed this really quite wonderful machine for shop floors, banking halls, shopping centres and so on and so forth. It's a social concierge machine. It's really, really wonderful. It's a beautiful piece of technology. The founders who are going to be here to present it to you are ex-Formula One engineers, so that's why it's kind of got that beautiful ergonomics. They're also very, very good at kind of form factors. Actually, what they've created is something that's an amalgamation of different types of algorithm. And I think when we're thinking about AI as a kind of all-embracing term, what we're actually talking about is collaborations of code. And when you put them together in a certain kind of configuration, you get some quite interesting results. Still can't do stairs. Yeah, there you go. So again, British Museum. If it goes rogue, I'll just kick it over. It's fine. But no, they weren't having that. Bo's got facial recognition and basic mood detection, so it can react to you based on your mood. And it also does some other really interesting stuff. It's basically a big tricorder. It sucks in information from the environment. In the book, I wrote about an equation, B equals F. Your behavior is a function of your personality and your environment. What's really lovely about Bo is it's sucking in temperature and various other things as well. So again, I'm coming to kind of what we were deciding that we were going to do with this piece of kit in a minute. It collects telematics, so it's able to kind of collect kind of where it's gone and where it's been and so on and so forth. Telematics gives us some amazing insight into why people are doing things and not just what they're doing. And we had this plan that we would basically put Bo into James's house to keep James company. So we would keep James company, and rather than him just interacting with these voice interfaces for collecting his memories and so on and so forth, we could have something that was more social, that would like genuinely keep him company. Doesn't have to have a conversation with him. It's just something that kind of follows him around, and he could sort of ask it to turn on his lights, so he could play music with it, and so on and so forth. And the guys from Bots and Us were very gracious, and they were going to give us one of these devices. And what we were really after was the machine being able to learn lots of information. So not just what James was saying, which is what we were getting, but also kind of trying to derive from the machine learning inside the cloud kind of why he was saying it. Is his voice patterns different because of the temperature on the day? Does the news have an effect on his mood, and so on and so forth? James had other ideas.
The only thing which stops me from fulfilling my full potential in life is my body. I'm not happy with it because it causes me pain. It's trapped in a wheelchair. It takes me several hours to get out and do stuff my peers do. I can't just wake up in the morning and get outside and start my day. I've got to wait 4 hours and then go out after I've done all my bandages and stuff. So yeah, and like I said before, it creates a barrier between me and able-bodied people. So if I could one day just be me, have my personality, but without the stupid body, that means And you may think I'm weird for saying this, but this body means nothing to me. I've got no attachment to the body at all.
So James had this kind of theory, it was entirely driven by him, that in theory, that corpus of information that we collected that was cloud-based, we could beam down into Bow units. If they had them in America, in a banking hall or something, we could borrow that machine, we could take it to a school, we could beam down his corpus, and it would allow him to kind of transcend that body. So it was kind of his idea that these machines, in their delightfulness, would allow him to kind of transcend and get around and do things that he was not able to do, and speak to people that he was not able to speak to normally, which is kind of a really pure, beautiful idea. One big challenge that we had was kind of giving Bo a voice. James was very clear that he didn't want to just be a chatbot. He didn't want this thing to be chatbot-based.
I have lots of hobbies. One of the main things is photography. I love getting out and taking pictures, and it seems to sort of take my mind off the pain, and it allows me to express myself creatively and use it as a way of being happy and positive and pain-free.
It's quite weird. But yeah, from the text that we captured, were able to generate a pretty good replica of James's voice. Which again, we're kind of in strange territory. Stuff that's being kicked around on the internet at the moment, like these deep fakes, same tech. We've not invented anything new. We did some quality user testing. Don't like the term user, but we did take him out and take the machine out and have a little conversation with people. And I love this kid in the middle. Two pictures, or one video and one picture in this presentation, which I think we should kind of go to. I love the kid's reaction in the middle there. I also really love the reaction of James in the video earlier, which we captured by accident the first time we met Bo. Aside from being a piece of technology, Bo represented hope to James, gave him an idea. And so for technology to give people hope and serendipity and something delightful, it's actually pretty cool. Yeah, it's awesome. James left us on the 7th of April. He was 24. I do miss him. I miss him terribly. He was awesome, and he shaped an awful lot of where we're going to go as a business and the kind of work that we want to do. James's story is really only just beginning. That data that we collected has given him a legacy. It's given his parents a lot of solace. We haven't quite decided what we're going to do with the project yet. Possibly nothing, possibly something, we don't know. But yeah, I think that young man is a pioneer in many, many ways, and he certainly touched my life and many others. I'm going to leave you with a video, James, which again, I think is a really poignant way to kind of finish the talk. And I want this to be kind of a talk of hope.
Always smile. You're not only going to help yourself and make yourself feel better, but you're going to help the person you smile to. So even if you're walking down the street in London one day and you see someone that looks a bit down, give them a smile. They might not say, oh, that really cheered me up, but in your heart that that's going to have an impact on that person, and they're most likely going to remember that for the rest of their day, and it could help them. They might have had a really bad time in work. Smile at them, make the day better, and smile for yourself too. No matter how hard life is, you can't focus on it, because you're just gonna keep going down and down and down. You need to go up and up and up and smile and be positive.
What a guy. I forgot to tell you the story about James dancing in his wheelchair earlier. That was less than 24 hours after he'd had half of his arm amputated. And we escaped from the hospital to have pizza together, which was really lovely. I'm not sure there's many people in this room who could escape from a hospital after 24 hours of having their arm amputated. He's just, what a spirit. So you see, not all AI is here to take our jobs or terminate the future. Not all robots are here to get in the way. Quite a lot of the machines that are emerging and the technology that's being created just give people hope, and it also gives us the ability to possibly do more than humanly possible. So augmentations of us. are where I see some of this stuff going. Data is going to give us, the ability to transform relationships between people and machines. That's what the NHS and so on and so forth are focused on and need to be focused on, because it's about transforming the relationships. It's about reimagining legacy, and it's about unlocking all that value that we're generating, and we're not going to stop generating. Thank you very much for indulging me.